Welcome.
Good morning. Robin Campbell, 110 Ridgely. I would like to see this budget tabled until further discussion. There was some discussion this morning, and I appreciate that. But the packet, it had very little information in it. There's still a lot of questions we have. There were 3 pages in the packet out of, I think, 589 pages. Well, 3 and then probably 3 for cover pages. So very little information. We have a lot, I've got some real concerns with MDC, their transparency. Last year, their budget had, the City Council packet had 0 pages on the budget, had a cover page, and that's it. And it was voted through with no discussion. I was at the MDC meeting a couple of weeks ago when they had the budget on the agenda. It was voted through with no discussion. There were no questions or discussion from the board at MDC. We've been emailing and we get asking questions to Ms. Harris and other MDC, and we get little information back. It seems like they want to provide as little as possible. The information we do get back contradicts a lot of their numbers. There's a lot of contradicting numbers. And so we would like more time to go over this budget. I would like to make sure that y'all understand what's in it. There's $67 million in outstanding commitments, and then about $15 million in tax revenue coming in. So they've spent a lot of their money. I think that they need to pull back their expenses. I think that they shouldn't hire new staff. I think that they need to save money for an industrial project. The laws around it, I would read from the comptroller's page. I don't know if I have time about the laws surrounding Type A economic development. That the voters voted that in to diversify our economy, by creating jobs from industrial and manufacturing projects that are not dependent on the oil. So when oil drops, our economy can have a little more stability. Retail and hotel are not industrial. Infrastructure for retail and hotel, that's not what this economic development was voted in for. It was voted in to stabilize our economy. Costco's not going to stick around when we have an oil bust, and we will. The hotel, I think that was a terrible project to begin with, and actually think it was illegal and that y'all should have given us a vote. It is clearly a Type B project, not a Type A project. Type B, the law says that the public gets to vote on it. Hotels, tourism, convention facilities are clearly in Type B projects. We have a lot of concerns with MDC, the executive sessions. The law, the bylaw states the mayor or your representative, city manager or his rep, and city attorney or his rep may be in executive session. There's been a lot more than that in executive session, and we don't.
Your time has lapsed. If you would conclude your remarks, please.
I didn't know y'all were timing on consent. Is that just for the public?
It's for public comment.
So staff gets to talk longer, but public doesn't? Is that the rule?
Please conclude your remarks. We appreciate
I'm
your
just
comments.
wondering what the rule is.
Nicholas, can you speak to the rule?
The council has established a 3-minute time limit for public comment.
But this isn't public comment. This is a consent discussion.
You are a member of the public commenting on this matter. It's a public comment.
Well,
if you would make your concluding remarks, we'd appreciate it.
we have a lot of concerns with MDC and the way that the city is allowing them to operate and with their financial situation right now. And then I'd like to see this matter tabled and more discussion and more public discussion as well.
Thank you for your comments. At this time, I'd like to call Judd Campbell to come forward and make public comment. Welcome, sir.
Judd Campbell, excuse me, Judd Campbell, 110 Ridgely Drive. Mayor, council members, it's good to see you again. I have real concerns also about the MDC in this budget. I appreciate the conversation this morning. We've been going for maybe 20 minutes on this, which is approximately 19 and a half minutes longer than what MDC spent in their board meeting discussing this. I'm really concerned about the oversight of what's happening there. I don't think that there is appropriate oversight. I don't think we really know what's going on. It happens either presumably in an executive session or otherwise, but it's certainly not happening in public meetings. Every discussion about the MDC needs to start with the fact that we have overcommitted the funds. In the last board meeting, in the financials that they provided, $67 million has been committed on a let's call it $16 million annual income. That may not be debt because the cash is not due today, but those are real commitments that we expect to have to pay out on those projects. The largest project that MDC has done to date is this convention center hotel, $45 million in cash. That is clearly illegal. It is clearly outside the bounds of what a type A. And your comments that the MDC honors the law on what they're supposed to be doing is laughable when that is the largest project that the MDC has done. It has put the MDC in a terrible financial position. We should not be looking to spend more money. We should not be expanding their budget, expanding staff. They are overcommitted. We need to reel that in. Those commitments are not good. We're funding things like Costco, like the hotel. We are not doing manufacturing and industrial projects. That's what it was put in to do, and we are not doing those things. I appreciate the infrastructure investments that we're making. The city could be doing those things. We don't need a development corporation to be doing infrastructure. If that's what we want to use our MDC to do, get rid of the MDC and let's do what the city should be doing to fund our infrastructure. But the MDC is not fulfilling its purpose. It's not operating in the bounds of the law. It is not using taxpayer resources appropriately or responsibly. There are real questions about some specifics in the budget. We need to look into these. I appreciate the responses from Ms. Weekland this morning. I think that's good and helpful. I don't understand the categorization of some of those expenses. Why do we have budgeted admin expenses for things that are related to economic development, presumably for properties that we hold, not for administrative purposes, but we hold presumably for economic development purposes? That should be in our economic development budget. So those things don't make sense. It's not adding up. We need to be looking at that and making sure that you know, as the council, how this money is being spent. The MDC board knows how the money is being spent. That information is not being shared publicly, and I have real concerns. So please, don't vote yes on this today. I don't know if that means tabling it, voting no, or whatever, but let's do that.
Thank you very much for your comments. All right, any further discussion among council at this time?
I mean, I'm in agreement with some of the things of just maybe deferring at the moment, and just the reason being is that I haven't had the full ability to dive into some of the things like what we were talking about with making sure that we are that we're covering all of the expenditures. We're making sure that everything is kosher. At the end of the day, I mean, we are passing a budget, and I want to make sure that before I sign off on a seal of approval that I fully understand everything that's in that particular budget. And there are a few questions that I have on that particular budget as well that I just have not had the time to have answered. I have talked with staff on some of those items, but until I get a further communication on just clarifying some things, I would prefer to defer at the moment. And then, and just want to make clear too, if we do defer, that we can get this back on an agenda after we've gone through and reviewed, and then be able to get it in a timely manner to be able to still meet the budgetary constraints.
Correct.
kind of taking a step aside from what you're talking about there, more broad conceptually, we have a lot of things that never even come to council because we have communication with staff, whether that's an MDC issue or it's communication about parks or other things. We communicate proactively with staff in advance of a lot of the items that come to council. Sometimes those things never make it to council because council's briefed with staff and we say, we don't like that, please don't bring it to us. This is one of those situations where we've had the opportunity to talk with staff and also with the MDC board before we ever arrived here today. So I think that that's one thing that needs to be considered here. Other comments from council members? All right, then I'll look for action from council.
Is this on?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Is this a motion to
table?
defer?
This is, right now it's listed as a motion to approve, so we're available to action from council, the action that council would like to take.
I mean, like I said, I would just make the motion to defer just so I can have full clarification on some of these things. Again, I did talk to staff about several of these. I have not had the opportunity to fully talk with MDC on some of these things. And again, just before I sign off on anything in particular when it comes to a budget, I just want to make sure I have a full understanding and I have all of my questions and concerns answered.
Okay, so you make that in the form of a motion to defer?
So I will make a motion to defer.
You can hit them. Councilwoman Burks, I think you had a comment that you were...
Well, yeah, I was trying to understand kind of your comment, Mayor. I was going to ask for clarification, kind of what you were...
Well, I understand. I want all of council to have opportunity to have
Right.
their questions answered.
Absolutely.
I think some of us have had our questions answered and some have not. And so, but I do think it's important for us to be aware that there are a lot of things that are discussed in preparation for these public meetings. Where bad ideas just don't come here sometimes.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that we don't ever have some bad ideas
Right.
that do get here.
Correct.
But the goal that I would have for us as council is to get those things handled in staff discussion before we come to a public meeting as much as possible.
And I think we've had ample time, but I do understand there's been some things going on, and so I think providing a little extra time, if you're requesting that, I would appreciate that, same if that was my request. So I'll second that, but I think you're right. We've been on council a little longer, so we understand kind of to get things. And so I think Lourcy would be glad to chat with you, or Sarah as well. We can make that happen for sure to answer any questions you have.
And
I would just like to add, so like I said, we have been able to dive into this. There have been other conversations. I wish all conversations would be public, but at this time and everything else that doesn't make that possible. I'd also like to just say this is a budget. Still, everything that MDC does need our input and our approval. And in the way I run my business, the way I do nonprofits, budgets are kind of the curbs of where we want everybody to go. This is not finite dollars. We're not saying you have to spend exactly this amount. This is what the MDC staff and board are bringing to us as what they think they're going to do this year. There's still a lot of conversations and a lot of work and a lot of communication that's going to happen why those dollars are being spent and what those dollars are being spent on. So again, the way I run my business is that our budget is kind of where we want to be. It is not exactly what we're going to do. So I'm okay with the budget as it is today, knowing that the council has a lot of input into the MDC, and the MDC has been very responsive to that input. And as we work through the MDC goals and objectives, those conversations are going to be had, and that budget again is kind of our just guiding force. It's not an absolute, so I'm okay with it as it stands today.
Yeah, and I understand that too. And like I said, and part of this is my fault. For me, for those who don't know, I've had some health complications over the course of the last 4 weeks, and so unfortunately I've been in surgery and recovery and some other things where I've not had the time to be able to look into a couple of these things. And like I said, that's just where I was just sitting. It's just want to make sure that I have those proper conversations. I mean, if I'm just going to sign off on something, I just want to make sure that I've had ample time to be able to make sure that I'm making the best decision possible.
okay. So we have a motion to defer. Do we have a second?
I'll second. I do agree with Stubbs, though, that Councilmember Stubbs, that I feel comfortable with it, but I would like the same courtesy if I had a request like that, so I will second it.
Okay, and I can be supportive of that as well. But I do think on an ongoing basis, let's try to get that done quickly. We don't want to put anybody in a bind trying to meet this deadline.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, we need to make this as quick as possible. Just, like I said, we don't want too much time to lapse in this, so I do want this to be able to be brought back in sooner than later.
Okay.
So
would it be in 2 weeks if we deferred it?
It's going to be in 3 weeks because we have an extra week.
But and it might, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might have to go back through the MDC board if we make any changes also, right? So there is a little bit of a process if they make a change to the budget. Is that correct?
Yes, if there was any sort of amendment done to the budget on the city council side, then yes, it would have to go back to the MDC board.
Does it have to be sequential? Could the council take action first and then the MDC, or the MDC has to take action first?
It would be the MDC taking action first, and then the council to go ahead and approve it
We're
afterwards.
not amending the budget, we're just
Deferring it.
I'm just saying if through those conversations,
Yeah, through
if we
those
amend
conversations,
it,
then
it'll
we'll
have to
amend it.
start the process over again.
So again, the deadline for filing this with the state is what?
There's no deadline per the MDC's bylaws. When we're talking about deadlines and public hearings, we're really talking about the city's budget. The MDC's budget doesn't have to go through the same procedural requirements. So I believe as long as it works for Sarah and we get it done before the new fiscal year, then we're okay.
They don't have to, but they could,
Okay.
is another way of saying that.
Okay.
And what's that date again?
For the city?
August 12th is the next regular council meeting.
Oh, the budget deadline's September 25th, or
Yeah,
something like
that's
that? I think that's the date. But before October 1st, for sure.
Okay. All right, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this item? All right, if there's no further discussion, let's vote.
The motion to defer carries 4-2.
All right, we will move forward to item number 18 and second reading.